Innes Fitzgerald, the overwhelming favourite. Katie Pye going for Great Britain, took a gold over the 3,000 metres in Banska Bystrica last year. National Championship silver over the 5, 16:20 this season. Sukalova of Czechia, national champion over 10,000 metres, so she's got great speed endurance. And there is, nearest the camera, Innes Fitzgerald, absolutely flying. Twice the European under-20 cross-country champion, the 5th fastest Briton in history, 3rd in the national senior championships, and a European under-20 age group record with 14:39 in the London Diamond League. Verdonk, Alessandrini, 16:02 this season. Sukalova. And as we head on to the second group of athletes, Jagiss next to Lutenberg. Jagiss is one of only 3 in the field to go inside 16 minutes, and that was this season. Multiple national champion indoors and out. Could she try and challenge Innes Fitzgerald? Bjerström, 16:09 this year. Haaland, little wave for the camera. Was Freya Bradley of Great Britain. Wernicke, she's the 3rd of the athletes to go inside 16 minutes. However, her last performance was a while ago at that level. Her season's best, 16.5. There's Katie Pye, gold in the 3,000 last year in Banska Bystrica. And Johanova of Czechia on the inside. Now, I spoke to Fitzgerald at the official press conference yesterday and asked what the tactics would be in the 5, and she said, well, I'm here to try and do the double, not in a big-headed way, so I think it's about trying to conserve the energy and see what I've got in the 3,000. We'll see. Oh, as if to add to the tension. A couple of wobblers on the start line, toes behind the line. The officials are sticklers for that. Fitzgerald, coached by Joe Pavey, who she has just surpassed on the British all-time list. Pavey, a former European champion and World Championship bronze medalist over the 10. That was back in Osaka. Upgraded after the subsequent disqualification of ablaze. Faulty rather than false, as you'd expect for a 5,000 metres. A little yawn there from Katie Pye. Come on, fully focused. It's a European Continental Championship final. Can't be yawning on the start line. The women's 5,000 metre final, the first gold of this 4-day bonanza of athletics is underway. The overwhelming favourite, Innes Fitzgerald, looking quite comfortable at the moment. The 14:39 that she ran, incidentally, for that European age group record, that equates to just a fraction outside 70-second laps. This may well be a rather different kind of race, and it's the diminutive Freya Bradley coming up towards the outside onto Fitzgerald's shoulder. There won't be many times in European age group history, and I'm not saying this because we're British, we get excited about any favourite and any performance, but we have to take a moment, I think, Phil, to talk about the fact that we're watching a distance race where the gap in personal best between the top performer and the second performer is almost 1 minute and 20 seconds. That's unprecedented.
I think it might well be. I mean, turning the clock back 2 years to Jerusalem when we had Agata Skauner romp away, she was probably about 45, 50 seconds ahead of her nearest rival, and Skauner has set the championship record 15:03, which is there if Fitzgerald wants to go for it. But as you say, maybe at the back of the mind, Fitzgerald is thinking about the double. Skauner did that 2 years ago in Jerusalem. She was an absolutely magnificent performer, but she wasn't quite as far ahead of her rivals as Fitzgerald is. And of course, Fitzgerald, you know, that magnificent European under-20 record. Skauner went up to about 4th on the European list. There was a couple of women between herself and Zola Budd. At the time, she'd just been pushed back owing to Fitzgerald. But it's there for her. No, I think a minute over 5,000 metres is just an absolutely staggering distance. If you thought about, let's just say, men's competitions, you wouldn't be thinking about that. Perhaps we've seen some great favourites who have been 10, 15 seconds ahead, but not more than a minute.
Well, let's see, shall we? Julia Earle is in 2nd place. She was on the podium last year in Banska Bystrica. Pretty metronomic there. We've had back-to-back 75s for Innes Fitzgerald. 75s equates to around about 15:35, so you would think that she will just start to try and wind this up. Yaghis. Well, Yaghis is in good form this year, isn't she? After that massive PB on the 1st of June on home soil in Turkey. And she got a bronze back in the European under-18s in 22. So she's now coming towards the top of this age group at 19. And Bradley, the diminutive figure, is becoming a little bit isolated in 4th place, but I think little by little Fitzgerald will start to wind this up. 3:07 at 1,000 metres.
Not super quick.
No, what is that, 15:30s? But they're already becoming detached.
Yes. Earle, a tough competitor though. She won gold medals in the under-20 races at the European Mountain Running and Trail Championships last year. Her brother as well, a great mountain running exponent as well. And she's equally adept on the track, and as we thought that Yaghis might just try and hold on. It's pretty typical of the Turks quite often, is that they commit everything, even if there's overwhelming favourites like Fitzgerald. They just get up there and they're very tenacious, especially the Turkish women middle distance runner. Earle now, well, look at that, between the leading trio going back to the rest of the pack at the moment, being led by Alessandrini of Italy. Alessandrini of Italy, probably around 30 metres behind the leading trio of Fitzgerald, Earle and Yaghis at the moment.
Two interesting subplots here. Earle, we'll get to the javelin in just a moment. Earle could run a massive PB in 2nd, and also Yaghis won't be intimidated by this pace because she has gone inside 16 minutes this year. Fitzgerald, Earle and Yaghis, 1st, 2nd and 3rd at the moment, but let's focus on the event the Finns love more than any other, the javelin.
Yes, Nelly Marker. We were talking earlier about great performances from Finnish women. Well, Nelly Marker in contention for a medal. These are just the qualifiers, though. Just a reminder of the qualifying conditions. 53 metres. It's been a long day. And Nelly Marker, that's about 51.5. Not very far at all away from that. She's just the 2nd person in action. She's got a personal best of 56. So she's coming into this competition as one of the leading throwers. We don't have Adriana Vialgos or Elena Schenko, the 2 previous winners of this European under-20 title, who are both 60-metre throwers. It's a little bit modest, the javelin this year. Nelly Marker, that'll get her through, I'm sure, even though it's not quite the automatic qualifying mark.
Well, we've got an insight as to how the tactics will unfold here. Little by little, Fitzgerald is winding this up. 1:15, 1:14, 1:13, and already A brilliant performer like Yagis has been dropped into third. Erler is in second, and the gaps are already significant. It looks like Fitzgerald has a lead of over, what, probably 70 metres on the chasing pack, who are fourth and onwards. A 72-second lap. That's why the gaps have sprung up. The other Briton running really well, Freya Bradley. She's in fifth place. It's Johannova who's leading that chase pack, but they are a long, long way back. And maybe the big question for the chase pack is whether they can catch Yagis.
Yeah, there was an injection of pace there in the preceding lap. Fitzgerald went through 2 kilometres in 6:10 exactly, which means that that second kilometre was a 3:03, following on from a 3:07 opening kilometre. And now Erler starting to drift backwards almost with every stride. Yagis starting to struggle a little bit. She's now looking as though she's now going to have to work very hard to keep the chasing pack at bay. This is Navakaite, the Lithuanian. That's a good throw from Navakaite. Not quite 50 metres. These conditions, with the amount of torque that these women impose when they're actually blocking, launching the javelin, they can't quite accelerate quite as quickly as they might to. Let's hope overnight the track dries out. But Navakaite, just over 49 metres, 49.08.
She is literally getting quicker with every lap. Erler is being reeled in now by Yagis, and there's a chasing group of 3 just off your picture now in the background. And it's Wernicke, the silver medalist from 2 years ago in Jerusalem. She's in that chase group, along with Bradley of Great Britain and also Johannova. Fitzgerald is just continuing to pull away from everyone here. This has been so good. A 3:07, a 3:03, and a 3 minutes. Wow. And that's why Erler and Yagis are trailing by around about 13 seconds, although all credit to Yagis. I thought Erler was pulling away from the Turk as the cameras focus on Innes Fitzgerald, and rightly so. Yagis has not been completely dropped by the German.
Well, we weren't privy to the pre-race tactics, but I'm getting the impression that the way that Fitzgerald is pushing hard, and has been pushing hard really from the early stages of the race, but after that first kilometre, she thought, I'm going to have a go at that championship record. I've got a feeling that might well be going through her mind, notwithstanding the fact that she's got the 3,000 metres to come. Bradley, Johannova battling away at the moment for 4th and 5th place. You're absolutely right though, Rob. This is concertinaing between that pair and Yagis in front of her. Yagis now has found a second wind and has got back at Erler. So it's a fascinating race for the medals unfolding.
And I wonder whether Bradley, who's just at the top of picture, out of picture now behind Yagis in 4th, whether Bradley and Johannova can work together. They've dropped Wernicke, so it's Bradley of Great Britain and Johannova of Czechia in 4th and 5th. They're now going through now with 4 laps to go. And they trail Erler and Yagis by around about 25 metres. Fitzgerald is checking the clock here, isn't she? She needs to find around about 10 seconds. She's gone through 3K in 9:10. That, in theory, would have her on course for around about 15:18, 15:19. But she's getting quicker with every kilometre. I think the championship record is absolutely on.
Well, Bradley and Johannova back in 4th and 5th, operating on personal best pace at the moment. And of course, we've been talking about the fact that this is not great conditions for the technical events. It's absolutely perfect conditions. It's probably about 15 degrees out there. Now it's drying, the track's drying, the breeze has dropped. This is great conditions for really good standard 5,000 meter running. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of personal best down the field, but at the moment we're looking at Innes Fitzgerald chasing that championship record, which has stood since Jerusalem. Just note this down. We've got a few laps to go, but it's Agauta Skauner's 15:03.85 from Jerusalem 2 years ago that's now very much under threat.
And there's Yagis having the race of her life, but Erla has got stamina to burn and she hasn't been dropped, although the chasing duo of Bradley and Johanna are not out of the battle for the medals. This is about Fitzgerald against the clock, and it's about whether the Turkish athlete and the German can hang on to silver and bronze, or whether Bradley and Johanna will start to close them down. They've got to realise they're there, surely.
Indeed. Well, Fitzgerald went through 4 kilometres in 12:12, so that was a 3:02 kilometre, just fractionally slower than that third kilometre of 3 minutes dead. But Fitzgerald now starting to lap athletes, and she's going to lap an awful lot more at this sort of pace. And just remember, we've got a whole host of national under-20 champions that she's going past. She's 400 metres in front of these women, and it's going to be a gap that's just going to increase with almost every stride. Here we see Yagis and Erla now, that battle for silver and bronze, but Bradley and Johanna looking a little bit tired, a little bit ragged. Bradley's doing all the hard work to bring her and Johanna up with Erla and Yagis with 2 laps to go.
It's about 3.5 to 4 seconds, the gap from Erla and Yagis back to Bradley and Johanna. It is bridgeable with less than 800 remaining. That's the battle for second and third and fourth and fifth, or is it? We will see. That's the subplot. It's a huge subplot because a huge star is igniting this track on an evening of rain, but she has been absolutely red hot. Erla still desperately trying to hold the inside line as Fitzgerald looks up. She takes the bell. It's around about 14 minutes. The championship record is going to be beyond even her mercurial talents unless she absolutely explodes on the last lap. Erla and Yagis are driving each other on here, and it's Johanna who's moved ahead of the Brit Bradley. And look at Johanna trying to accelerate. Yagis can see in the big screen that Johanna is trying to close. The German Erla starts accelerating at the bell. There she shows that mountain running strength. Can Johanna manage to close the gap on Yagis? We're watching for Fitzgerald to see the speed with which she's coming round. These are brilliant athletes she's lapping, and she's making quality performers look very, very ordinary. Innes Fitzgerald can now afford to smile. It's not going to be a championship record, but it's an absolutely brilliant performance. There are people standing here to greet the new winner, 15:09. It was never in doubt, never in doubt. Innes Fitzgerald is a major star of European and global distance running, and she has her first gold here in Tampere. Yagis and Erla locked together in a battle for silver and bronze. Erla comes again. Can Yagis hold on? They are going to be on the podium, but in what order? Yagis driving, the smaller of the two figures. Erla, the mountain runner, has the stamina, but Yagis has the speed. A brilliant silver and bronze for Turkey and Germany. And Johanna, all credit to her in fourth, and a brilliant fifth for Freya Bradley. They ran their hearts out to try and run the sting out of the Turk and the German in silver and bronze. Great performances from the leading quintet. There'll be a whole host of personal bests in this race, and they'll all have Fitzgerald to thank, because she got to the front and wound it up and wound it up and wound it up. She's a massive, massive star, and what a senior career awaits her. She's decimated a brilliant field, and she's done it all in her own inimitable style.
And what awaits her now, of course, is the 3,000 metres. Can she take on that double? Well, it's been done before, but it hasn't been done very often. And frankly, you really wouldn't want to bet against Innes Fitzgerald coming home with 2 gold medals. Fantastic performance. Just look at the difference there. There's about 34 seconds between Fitzgerald and Yagiz and Erler in second and third. Johannova just missed out on a medal, but took over half a minute off her personal best. Phenomenal performance and a big personal best for Freya Bradley in fifth. I think we're going to see many, many more personal bests as these women trail home. These were the only women who weren't lapped. Down to Ferrari. Everybody else was lapped, including Drexler. Drexler not quite getting a personal best, but Innes Fitzgerald, well, she came here. Well, there was some doubts as though she was going to come here, because it does look as though she'll be on her way to Tokyo next month for the World Championships there. As I say, there will be a handful of performers going from these championships, but there won't be very many. But that group will include Innes Fitzgerald as she raises the Union Jack, celebrating the first gold medal of 44 on offer here at these European Under-20 Championships. Well, there's still more to come, though, this evening. We've got the semi-finals of the men's and women's 100 metres, and we've still got some terrific field event action going on, including the women's javelin, the men's pole vault, and the women's high jump. This is an evening that's not over, but just let's celebrate the 3 women who'll be standing on the podium at the very end of tonight's programme.
Great run from Julia Erler. I thought for a moment with 50 to go she was going to steal back the silver, but Yagiz was not to be denied. How about this? Personal bests for second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 9th and 10th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th. Over half the field have registered lifetime bests, and they've done so because Fitzgerald grabbed the initiative by the scruff of the neck, started off with what for her was a fairly gentle 75, and then it went 74, 73, 72, and finished with a 1:08.68 last lap. Just too good for the whole field. But many, many, many of them will go home with the fastest time of their young careers so far.
And I'll tell you what, on the penultimate lap, there was a wonderful sequence of images as we saw Innes Fitzgerald starting to pick up her feet, perhaps thinking, if I can uncork a 63-second last lap, I can get that championship record. And then we switch back to Erler and Yagiz, and then behind them, Johannova and Bradley, grimacing. The strain on their faces was coming through. They were working so hard, but it was just so easy for Innes Fitzgerald. Well, here we see those closing stages again. Erler, I think Erler's future lies at longer distances, but for the moment she's a bronze medalist. Yagiz, well, we've seen her in action at European Age Group Championships. Erler, of course, will probably switch her attention. We've got the European Mountain Running and Trail Running Championships coming up next year in May, so not that far away, really. They're all grouped together. That wasn't the best, most coordinated medal celebration I've seen, but it doesn't matter. They've all got a medal, and they'll all be standing on the podium just a little bit later. We've still got about an hour and a half of action before finishing off with that 5,000 metre medal ceremony. Time to warm down. 14
personal bests, I make it, in the whole field so far.
And I have a feeling as well, just looking down there, I think there's a couple of national under-20 records tucked in there. We're only seeing the personal best. And I'll tell you what, when they get home and all those statos, as we like to call them, unpack the results of this race, there's going to be a couple of national under-20 records into the bargain.
Confirmation of a fabulous victory for Innes Fitzgerald. Is it the first half of a distance running double here in Tampere? We shall find out. No fewer than 14 PBs down the field. They were all blown apart, but they were dragged along to lifetime bests.
Hello, I'm Leonardo Fabri, and you must subscribe to the European Athletics channel, because otherwise I'm gonna fight you.